to India and Ireland, round Africa and back again. We don't really need to know just where we'll go. Maybe Canada, then to Brazil, then through the Alpine foothills. All I really want to know is, can we go? Oh baby, can we go? Round and around the globe.
Welcome to Take Me With You, episode 31. I'm Ryan,
And I'm Cheryl. We are two well-traveled people who want to go everywhere.
but that's not going to happen. So instead, we'll travel vicariously by inviting a guest to share their unique travel stories with us.
Today, we are talking to Andie. Andie is a family pastor in the Tri-Cities in Washington State. She's actually going to be the one who's going to be performing my wedding ceremony. So that's exciting.
Wow.
Welcome, Andie.
Thank you so much for having me, you guys.
Yay.
Yeah.
Oh, we're so excited to have you. I first heard Andie as a speaker at the camp that I used to work at. And I remember some crazy story that involved her on the back of a motorcycle in a foreign country. So I don't know if we're getting that one today or not, but I'm pretty excited about some travel stories from Andie.
I think if you ask really nicely, you probably could get that story today.
Is it related to the trip that you're going to be sharing about?
It is. It was in that same trip.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Ooh, this could be interesting then.
It's a little teaser for later in the episode then. So Andie, have you guys traveled with your kiddos yet? Because you have two kids one in elementary school, one in middle school.
Yeah.
So what does that look like as a family?
So we take smaller trips with our kids, mainly because travel's kind of expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But it is something that we value as a family, and so it's definitely something that we want to do more and more as they get older. And I don't really think that there's like a minimum age that would be beneficial. It's just, it's super expensive. And so we have we have Camp Grandma, which is where our kids go when we're traveling internationally, just the two of us.
Camp Grandma, I love that. So how often do you guys travel without your kids then?
So we, just like kind of more locally, we'll do one or two trips a year, just me and my husband, like for a weekend.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, for the most part, we love to have them with us. And so even if it's just the two of us, like we love that, but we also see so many things that they would love that our favorite parts of our trips are watching their faces as they discover things. Like I think of the first time my daughter saw the ocean, and I have a picture of her just the wonder in her face, like as a parent and as somebody who casually enjoys children, like so incredible. It was so incredible. So yeah, watching them discover is probably one of my favorite things about travel.
That's
love
cool.
that. Watching them that's beautiful. How fun.
Yeah.
Are there any things that you haven't introduced them to yet, but you're like, oh man, someday, child?
So this sounds a little backward, but I want to introduce them to living conditions that would just blow their mind in kind of a difficult way. I want them to understand that the way that we live is not the way everybody else lives, and we can find value in the way other people live. And so I definitely want to take them to countries that will expand their understanding of just all the people that God has made and what that looks like.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it doesn't go over super well when you're like, I want to expose my kid to hard things. That's not a super popular idea, but
Sure.
that's where we're at. So
do you and your husband have a strategy then on like an age when you want to do that ideally with your kids, or a method or a way that you want to do, like have those conversations with them?
Yeah. So their conversations we're already having. And so we've been laying the groundwork for that kind of travel for a long time. The first time I went to Africa, there were pictures that a lot of parents, I think, probably would choose not to share with their younger kids. But we wanted to be able to share again, just the value and dignity in all sorts of different people. And so, when my youngest was 6, she was seeing pictures of kids that we met who were in extreme poverty. And not so that I could tell them like, oh, look how blessed you are, you're so but so that they don't feel like their lifestyle is the only acceptable lifestyle. We really want them to understand that there's a difference between partnering with people and feeling superior, like you're bringing help or aid.
Yeah.
And so we've been laying those conversations for a long time. And then as far as age, they're there. I mean, 12 and 9, I'm ready. So the biggest consideration is just their safety and what that looks like. Personality wise, I think I would have taken my 12-year-old when she was 9 because she's just like uber responsible. But my youngest wants to be friends with everybody. And so trying to figure out what safety looks like for her, it looks a little different. But yeah, we're definitely getting there.
That's exciting.
That's so cool. Wow. Very cool.
Awesome. So we've got a set of questions that we ask all of our guests initially, just to give us a sense of you as a traveler. And we already have a little bit of that just even from our conversation so far. But first question is for you. Why do you travel?
Oh my goodness. I travel because I didn't realize how little my world was until I began traveling. And so, the idea that it's so much more expansive, people are so much more expansive than I ever gave them credit for. That's something I learned through traveling. There is an interconnectedness that you feel when, at least that I feel when I travel. It breaks down so many of the barriers that we have, so many of the fears that we have when we're interacting with people that we've kind of assumed we're not acting in our best interest. But what I've really learned in travel is, for the most part, people are here for you, and you can be there for them. And we can be like a weird, awkward, like we can't communicate super well family, and it's amazing. And I love that about travel. So I've learned so much through travel. Yeah.
Cool.
That's beautiful.
So next question, what type of traveler are you?
Oh, gosh. It depends on who I'm with. So I'm either like super pioneer, like strong independent, or I travel with my husband and I'm a joke. Like
Wait, what does that mean?
You need to explain what your husband looks like and what you look like and what he does for a living as well.
Okay, so I'm 5'1", stereotypically like blonde, bubbly. My husband's 6'5", and he's a police officer. Yeah. And so he's the kindest man I've ever met, but he could also kill you with his bare hands. And so there's
in
like
a kind sort of way, I'm sure.
In a gentle, very loving way, very humane. But I just feel like I can be so vulnerable with him that when things are hard, if he's around, I don't have to power through. And so I've traveled alone, and I've traveled in groups, and I've traveled with him. And by far my favorite is traveling with him. But it takes more intentionality on my part to be able to get out of him as my comfort zone. Beyond that, I'm super organized as a traveler because I don't want to miss anything. And so I've done my research. I've rolled up my t-shirts. Like, I'm here for this.
Rolling.
Roll those t-shirts.
Roll the t-shirts.
Okay, then do you also use packing cubes?
Ooh.
I am not fancy enough for that. That is out of my league.
I got to tell you,
you
though.
would like them.
You
and
would.
With
I bet.
kiddos?
Like it was a game changer for me because I was rolling first. Like that was my entry. And then I was like, you know what? I've seen these packing cube things.
Oh my
I'll give them a
gosh.
try. You can get them for super cheap on Amazon. They have
Yep.
Amazon Basics.
Yep.
They have the Amazon Basics brand for not very expensive. And they have different colors. So you can color
coding.
Exactly.
Yes.
And
I
then
love
you
it.
roll, and you put them in the packing cubes. I'm telling you, you'll never go back.
Oh my gosh. I believe it. It sounds like rolling is gateway.
Yeah. First you roll and then you cube. This is how life
Oh my
works.
gosh.
Yep,
So,
that's the way it
you
works.
could do like 1 cube per kid, even if you were doing like a big family suitcase or something. Be like, fill up this cube.
Yeah.
That's how much space you got, kid. Like,
Totally. Yeah. And I don't pack my kids. They pack themselves. They like, if you
Awesome.
are not autonomous, you're not invited. So if you can't keep track of your stuff, we're not going to play. So I love that.
boy. Oh,
Right.
I love it.
So we got one final question before you launch into your story here. What is your number one travel tip?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Are we allowed to talk about periods on this show or
Sure
no?
are.
Sure.
Overpack, ladies. Well, because on this trip in specific, I underpacked and my amazing husband was going up to these German tourists and asking for various supplies that a woman might need. And I never want another human to have to feel like that ever again. So, and then also, booty wipes, like individual ones, because sometimes you have to pay for toilet paper and they don't hook you up with more than 3 squares. And that's not a good day, folks. So I'm just here with the nitty gritty. Pack your wipes.
I like that.
Pack your wipes.
Pack your wipes.
This is the mom in me, like I've never experienced, but you're welcome.
Oh,
Hey,
I like
someone's
that.
gotta say it.
Someone's got to
So
say
you
it.
gotta roll your t-shirts, you gotta cube your clothes, you gotta maybe underpack the clothes a little bit and then overpack the feminine
Oh, yeah.
supplies.
Thank you so much. That is real. Yep.
Okay, so on that note, Andie, what trip are you going to be telling us about today?
I went to Uganda a summer ago. So, I have a friend who's Ugandan and she was getting married and she attributes her willingness to get married to like how cool me and my husband are. And so she asked if we would be, I know, isn't that awesome? A little shameless plug for our marriage. Yeah. So, she asked if we'd be in the wedding and, yes, the answer was yes. And so we went to Uganda, and I was a bridesmaid and he was a groomsman and it was incredible. It was at this beautiful resort called Munyunyo, in Entebbe in Uganda on Lake Victoria. So we were there for 2 weeks. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
so
It was
cool.
super cool. Yeah, so we stayed with her, and she actually operates like a small scale orphanage. She was an orphan herself. And so, whenever a kid needed a home, she gave a kid a home. And so, we stayed with her and the kids and all the adults that are now like through university because of the way that she chose to love them, and provide for them. And so, it was one of the most beautiful experiences of my entire life. Like there was, there's traveling and there's like tourism and then there's like, she treated us like we were locals. So not very many other people did. We were definitely, we stuck out. We definitely got some weird interactions, from being white in like super rural Uganda. But I feel like we got an insider view into what life looks like in that beautiful place. So, yeah.
That's so interesting. So what does life look like there?
Yeah. So, all the cooking was done outside. They had so she had, not all houses were brick and mortar, but she actually did have like, kind of like a stucco house, with brick. And, first thing you notice is there's not really, roads. There's a lot of red dirt with some grooves worn in. There's no traffic regulation. Once you get out of Kampala, the capital city, like it was a free-for-all traffic. There's little bikes, bodas that would weave in and out of traffic. And I had my hand on the handle of our car, and she said, pull that hand in if you don't want to lose that finger, because I had my wedding ring. And she said that, yeah, people will just go by and like cut your finger off and take your ring. And so I definitely realized like we were not in Kansas anymore. And but yeah, once we got to her place, just felt like secure. We ate dinner at like 10 o'clock. Everything was wood fire outside, cooked open air. Meals were fantastic. The food was killer. And in African culture, the kids did the majority of the cooking and the housework. And so
interesting.
We would wait. Yeah, it was interesting because from my perspective, that's so flipped. But there is an independence that's required a little sooner. And so it's life skills. And so they would cook. It was so beautiful. Like, they called us auntie and uncle. Just felt super embraced and super loved. And I'd not met any of these kids that were staying, living in her home, and just like, hugs and kisses on the cheek, and like, here we have flowers for you. We were just, deeply loved.
Wow.
The rhythm of life was super beautiful. The wedding was interesting. Like, we made the cake, we did all the flowers. The preparation was done primarily by the bridal party. And here's something so cool. And Cheryl, you should use this for your wedding.
Okay.
The bridal party paid for the wedding. Like they did.
Ooh,
that was
that's a great idea.
Yeah. So you have and I can't speak for all of Africa, but in Uganda at least, there's a wedding committee, and you'd have these committee meetings, and they would take an offering.
Wedding committee.
Yes. Yeah. And so they would like, I mean, it was almost like an auction, like trying to get you to give more and give more and give more. And then it would just go to the bride and groom to pay for expenses. It was super cool. And then, so then at the rehearsal and at the wedding, special cakes were made for the people who were on the wedding committee, and they got a special cake as a thank you for helping support this union. It was beautiful. Yeah, it was really cool. So
that's cool.
Just a really communal feel. Like I was not feeling well when I got there, and so like I had all these incredible women who were giving me like home remedies. Here, chew on this. Like here, like we'll pick this from our garden and make you this. Yeah, they had this African lemongrass, which is it was so sweet and so good, so different than I associate lemongrass with, like in entire other Asian flavors. Steeped, and there was this like gingery lemongrassy tea that tasted like Fruit Loop milk, but like it was cereal milk. It was so good. I can't even express. Like, just felt loved and welcomed in. So it wasn't a one way. It was definitely, we got to contribute and we got to be a part of it. So that was so beautiful for us to not feel like guests, but to feel like family.
Wow. That's very cool. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
So you said the wedding was very like communal. What were some other traits of it that you would say kind of like distinguished it other than
the dancing?
Yeah.
The dancing.
Really?
So, yeah. So the bridal party, we went on this like parade. I mean, it was just a really formal in the sense of like the bridal party, propped up the bride and groom as like royalty. And so, we were treated as like attendants to royalty. And so like we took essentially like a promenade around the whole ceremony. And then, the ceremony, we were, here's something also I feel like you should incorporate. The bridal party got to sit down, which was
like
amazing.
During the ceremony?
Yes. Yeah. Once the pastor started preaching, Yes, we got to sit, so that was super cool. That doesn't help me out when I'm officiating your wedding, but it's a good thing.
You want like a couch or something, girl? I got you.
Yeah, could we do that? You guys heard it, so that's real. But yeah, no. So once the ceremony was over, like we danced like again in like kind of a parade or promenade, and so I won't say that my husband doesn't have rhythm. I will say that part was very challenging for him. And the reception was like 7 hours. I mean, this was an all day, all night affair.
Wow.
There was an outfit change. Yeah, an outfit change for the bride.
An outfit change. So like not in the wedding dress the whole time?
Yeah, in a second wedding dress.
Nice.
Oh.
Yeah.
More comfortable, less comfortable, equally uncomfortable.
I would say equally, if not less, because it got shorter and lower. So it was more of like a party dress.
Time. Got it.
Yeah. So the bridesmaids stayed in the same outfit, but the maid of honor and the bride outfit change.
Okay.
And it's really common. Yeah. So just the idea that this union is celebrated really profoundly. It was cool because I feel like the more communal aspect was that it wasn't just about the bride and groom. It was about acknowledging, like, the speeches were them thanking the people that have poured into their relationship. The speech, it was really beautiful just how it felt like we were all getting married. Like it just, it was an outward look, and it still celebrated this union. But it was about the people that were foundational and fundamental for who they were as adults. It was super cool.
So, if I'm understanding correctly, you're saying that so the bride and groom gave the speeches, not like the wedding party.
Yeah, and there was some from the wedding party, but there was a lot of thank yous, personal thank yous from the bride and groom for the people who've poured into their life. So like I said, my friend was an orphan, and so she was in the African Children's Choir, and so she traveled the world as a kid, and the person that began that work, he was there, and he gave her away.
Cool.
And so just to hear her just give credit for his love and desire for restoration in the lives of some of these kids. I mean, we were all a mess. It was incredible. Yeah. Yeah, and just like this is going to sound weird, but like there was just like a lot more like naked babies running around and like kids being like kids. And I love that. I love the idea that that things weren't standing on ceremony, that they were just sharing life together like they always do. It was so cool.
So it was both like a bigger deal in the sense of like, we are all coming around you in this marriage and going to make this wedding happen and all this stuff. And then not such a big deal that it was like, you need to shut up and be formal in this way.
Totally.
Like, that's
yes,
really cool.
Totally.
I like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Taking notes right now. Here we go.
So you're going to have naked babies at your wedding?
Probably.
Probably.
It's going to be in the winter. They'll probably need to wear a coat or something, but you know.
That's fair. It was really hot, so it was August in Uganda.
Makes sense culturally, that you'd have naked babies there. Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, and I was looking on the map. It looks like the equator runs through Uganda.
It does, yeah.
So
yeah, and Lake Victoria too is a huge body of water, and so it's super humid.
Yeah. And you said you were in Entebbe or in
Entebbe.
Yeah.
Entebbe,
which is right on it looks like there's a bunch of like little tiny like almost islands. Kind of coming down the south side of Uganda, north side of the lake.
Yeah.
That kind of jut out into the water.
We were further south. I have a picture of me and my husband and our friend and her husband. He's our friend too, but our friends were all four standing in front of this lake. And that night, I found out that there are alligator or crocodiles in that lake.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
I did not know. and I screamed at my friend, feel like that was valuable information before I turned my back to a body of water that contains crocodiles. And she's like, oh, no, they don't come here. But don't they? Like, if they live in this lake and there's reeds, like how my heart is racing thinking about it again. There was reeds.
You're being stressed even right now, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I have a thing about crocodiles, so I did lose my mind there for a sec.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Oh man. Okay, so what was the process of getting from your home all the way to this village? Like, let's talk transportation, shall we?
Yes. Yeah. So, first flight was 8 hours. Second flight was 9.
Okay, but from where to where?
Oh, fair. Okay, so we flew out of Seattle, and then we had a stopover in Amsterdam, and then we had, and I say stopover because you can't get off the plane. So I'm in Amsterdam, but I can't get off the plane.
Oh,
and
you
then
didn't even get off the plane?
No, it wasn't a layover. We stopped and picked up more passengers.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And then we did the same thing in Ireland, and I cried because I've wanted to go to Ireland since I was 11, and we were in Ireland, and they wouldn't even let me into the airport, and I was really tired, and my malaria pills were making me kind of like, oh, woohoo, and so like my emotions were not where they should be, and I was devastated. But then we flew to Ethiopia, and we were there for like 9 hours. So we were in Addis Ababa, which is the capital of Ethiopia. And our flight to Kampala was only like an hour. So we were so close, and we were so tired, and we were so far away. So we stayed in the airport for a very long time. That's when my husband was stopping groups of like German college age girls and trying to like describe what a feminine hygiene product is to these like college girls as again am exhausted and sobbing.
So you weren't able to leave the airport while you were in Ethiopia?
No. So there was customs issues if we left.
Okay.
And as it was, I just had this feeling that we needed it to be right by our gate. Like things seemed very relaxed, which to me reads disorganized, which means I'm not getting on my flight. And we have like no cell service and no way of contacting our friends. We're just like hoping that they're there to pick us up. And so, yeah, then we flew to Kampala, and they picked us up, and it was about a 2-hour drive out to their house. So they lived on the outskirts, like 45 minutes out of Entebbe. And so it was still a trek. So we got into town at like 9:30.
AM or PM?
PM. So
the following day from when you left.
Yeah. So because tax return equals cheap flights, and so yeah, you get what you get. Yeah. And so we drove out, and we got there in the dark. It was very disorienting at first. Again, because there's like no roads, and so you're just sinking into these like really deep divoted. Yeah, and we were there during the rainy season as well. So like I have this amazing video of like 1.5 inches of water accumulating in like 30 minutes. So the roads are really washed away. What they use for roads. But oh my gosh, there's nothing like waking up and seeing where you're at. And it was tropical, and the dirt was red, and it smelled so good. And it was so beautiful, so incredible to wake up there. So yeah, the travel was definitely rough. I get airsick. And the first time I took malaria pills, they did not affect me. The second time they made me so drowsy, and they made my husband super drowsy. And so yeah, Jeremy and I were like setting alarms for 30 minutes and like hitting each other, trying to wake each other up so that our stuff didn't get stolen in the Ethiopia airport. And yeah, we just had not figured out like, oh, it's the pills that are making us sleepy. So once we got that, like, ironed out, we just took them at night and slept fine. But
There you go.
the travel, like, was pretty rugged. So, yeah, just felt, because I think they were making us so drowsy, just felt a little out of control. So the way home was so much easier and so much more relaxing. Yeah. But no, it was kind of a bear getting there for sure. So
Wow.
yeah.
So
it was neat though, because 4 flights.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a long one.
But only 3 planes, because of the stopovers. Yeah. So,
Wow.
but we stopped in LAX. My brother-in-law and his wife live there. And so we planned like a 9-hour layover and hung out with them before we took off. So that part was super cool.
That's cool.
That's good.
Yeah.
Nice. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we did that. And then, we were in town for like 3 days after the wedding, and, probably one of the most incredible experiences of my life, other than getting married and having our kids, happened in that 3 days. So, there is a wildlife conservation zoo.
Yeah, I saw that on the map.
Yes. Okay. Let me tell you, they let you pet everything.
Oh.
Really?
Yes. You have to pay, it was like $70 US. It was actually more than that, but one of my friends, who's also Ugandan, took us, and she's like, no, they're Ugandan. Obviously, I'm Ugandan. And the guy, if you can't, I mean, you don't know this, but I'm like so extremely fair. Like, the idea that I would ever pass is a joke. So, the guy giving tickets looked at her, and he's like, absolutely not. They're not Ugandan. And she said, this is my sister. She is Ugandan. You will not charge her that much. Charge her 70. And so we got in for like super cheap in comparison.
Oh, wow.
But it's a teaching zoo, and what they do is it's rescue animals. And so, like, we got to pet like a brother and sister cheetah who were abandoned at birth. Oh yeah, I petted cheetah until she fell asleep.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
Yep. We fed a baby elephant whose mom was poached. And the poachers didn't see that she had a baby, and so they rescued the baby. I fed a lioness. That was through a fence, and it was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, just incredible things. Like, I have a selfie with a giraffe, who would like come and eat out of my hand. We got to pet a black rhino, which there's so few still even in existence. I mean, and again, that one was through the fence, but I mean, I'm like, I have a picture of my husband and I sitting with a cheetah, like her head is on our lap as we're petting this thing. Like, it was so cool. And what they do, and I so love this, is they travel with some of their animals and into the larger cities and just educate about conservation, educate about the practices of poaching and why they're so damaging, and how to be good stewards of the beauty that is their country. So, yeah. I mean, amazing. That was something. In that moment, I definitely wished our kids were there. So that was hard.
Yeah.
Because that's an experience. And you know, I actually just got a message from my friend like last weekend, and she's like, when are you bringing the girls? So it's on our to-do list, but
wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and then let's hear about the story when you were happy that you didn't bring the girls.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, pretty standard practice, abductions. And
wait, I'm sorry.
Actually,
when you say standard practice abductions, you're going to need to fill in a little bit more than that.
No, it wasn't. I mean, it is sarcasm.
Ryan, so.
It is, but it's also not. And that's, so that's a good starting point. So actually one of the bridesmaids, her husband, they're Kenyan, and her husband had just been abducted a few weeks before. They found out that he didn't have any money and they let him go. So it's a decently regular occurrence. In fact,
Oh,
As I
wow.
was just thinking about my experience there, I looked up Uganda's news today, and there was a woman who was abducted and released. She was held for like 4 weeks, an American.
4
And
weeks.
so, yeah.
Wow.
And she was just released and is, has been debriefed and interviewed. So my husband and the groom went into town to get his suit fitted. And, so I was with the bride and we were going to go into town, but they have one car. And so we were going to take bodas, which are these little bikes. So I might be 5'1", but if you're at all Enneagram literate, I'm an 8, which means I think I'm a solid 7 feet and like that I can take you. So I do stupid things sometimes. And so my friend and I were going to go into town on these bodas, and she had said, hey, listen, like riding double, it's not working. You need to take one and I'll take one. We'll just make sure we stay together. And I'm like, okay, I'm in my 30s, but I'm feeling my 12-year-old girl in me being like, well, I don't want to make my friend mad. But there was something in me saying, this is really stupid. But I did it anyway. So I hopped on the back of the bike, and she gave me the guy that she knew. So she gets on this other bike and says, hey, Andie, if he gets behind you or behind me, just start smacking him on the back and tell him to hurry up. Okay, so I don't know where we live, right? I don't know where we're at, but I just know I'm going into Kampala. That's all I know. And so, or excuse me, Entebbe. So I'm on this bike, and my friend is negotiating with a second boda driver because they're not, it's not regulated. It's just you pay
Sure.
somebody cash and they take you
Sure.
in. As she's negotiating with the second guy, this young kid comes up and starts talking to my driver that now I'm on the bike with, and they're having a conversation that is making me extremely uncomfortable. And I don't speak Luganda. I have no idea what they're saying, but I just like felt sick. And so my friend takes off on her bike, and my guy goes to take off on his bike and spins around and stops. And this group of boda drivers starts closing in on me. And this young kid that was speaking came up on his bike and grabbed me and tried to pull me on his bike and said, he doesn't want to take you. You need to come with me. And I said, I'm not going with you.
Oh my gosh.
And he's like, he goes, get on my bike, and he starts pulling. So I elbow in the back my driver as I'm trying to hit this guy, literally thinking, this is it. Like, I have my passport with me. I have all of my money. Like, even if they only take my stuff, I have no idea how to communicate with anybody to get back to the people that I know. And now at this point I'm thinking, my kids are at home. Like, I'm not coming home, and my kids are at home, and this is not okay. So I am just screaming, swearing like a friggin' sailor, banging this guy on the back, and he won't go. And this young kid is still trying to get me to get on his bike. And so this woman, she comes out of a shop, and she walks between this circle that I'm in, and she stands between me and this circle of boda drivers, and she just stands there. And when she stood there, they backed up, and my driver looked at her, and she said something to him, and he took off. And I dearly hold on to the idea that she saved my life.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so he took off. This whole time he's not keeping up with my friend. I keep losing sight of her. And he pulled over to the side of the road on what can be loosely described as a roundabout, but it was also a marketplace. Like, there's a bunch of shoes and clothing in the middle, and there's people everywhere. And I have no idea where my friend is. And he's just stopped. And he said, out of gas. Which he was not, because I'm not an idiot and I can read a gas gauge. So my friend, thank goodness, like, my friend was watching for me. She looped back around. She starts screaming at him. He's like, no gas, no gas, no gas. She's chewing him out in Luganda, and she said, fine. And then I popped on the back of her bike, and we were just real snuggly because so we doubled up and went into town. But it was it was not great. I'll be honest. And so I'm so grateful for this beautiful human who saw somebody in need, and very much in a vulnerable position. And she just stood there. I mean, she said one thing and he took off. Like she stood. And in their culture, it's still very patriarchal in a lot of ways. And so her voice most likely doesn't carry a ton of weight, but she stood anyway. So yeah, that's my I almost got kidnapped story.
Wow. That's scary.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But I would take that over crocodiles. Not true. That's not true. I don't think that's true.
I don't think you mean that.
I don't think I mean that either.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Well, that was all very epic. Thank you for sharing all that with us.
Absolutely.
We have a couple questions that we always like to end with, and so I'm a little nervous about your answer to this first one, but if you could take us with you to just one thing on this trip, what would it be and why?
Oh, definitely the wildlife conservation zoo. I mean, you're welcome. The idea that we are responsible for voiceless people and creatures is something really dear to my heart. And so I believe that the process of standing with people whose voices are marginalized or creatures whose voices are marginalized starts with education. And so I just think the capacity to experience the beauty of these animals and like, let's be honest, I ate steak for dinner. Like I'm not up here being like a vegan or anything, but there are animals that are integral to our ecosystems that we're not taking care of or making space for. And so I think the more people who can experience that hands-on, the better. Plus, oh my gosh, so cute. So much cuteness. There were monkeys that we got to feed. Like, it was amazing.
So cool. And what's your next trip?
So I'm going to Florida in November. So Tampa, which is so brave of me because guess what lives in Florida? All the gators.
Yep.
Yeah. So my husband and I have a conference that we're going to go to. And yeah, we're going to sneak in a couple of days early and stay a couple of days late and just get some time.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah.
So this is without kids then?
This one's without kids. I don't think they want to come to the National Youth Workers Convention.
Are you sure?
My oldest might, actually. She's, yeah. She could do my job better than me, so they probably both could, quite frankly. They're more fun than I am, so. They get to go to Yellowstone with the grandparents in the fall. And my parents... Oh, yeah. And my parents won't let us come. We are not invited. So I don't actually feel sorry for my kids literally at all.
Wow, that's harsh. They won't let you come?
What if you just went on the same trip and you're like, oh, hey.
I literally said that, Cheryl. I kid you not. I told my mom, I said, I'm just going to show up. Listen, you're not the boss of me. And she looked at me and she said, yes, I am. And you know what? She is right. So, yeah.
Oh, boy. Wow. Okay, well, you and I will do something fun while your kids are there then. How about that?
Yes. Love it.
And do you have any travel questions for us?
I do. And it's a little related to my story. So I know that you guys both like to travel solo. What are some things that help you feel safe and secure as you're doing that?
Oh, that was a good question. Let's see. I'll probably have a few. So Ryan, we can go back and forth as we're thinking of them, I guess. If you can think of any in the moment. I would say one thing is having cash on me, because in the States, I don't always have cash on me. A lot of the times I don't. Yeah. But I think just in general, like there are so many places where like credit cards are not an assumed thing that people can take. So I think even before I leave on a trip now, I'm like, I should just already have some cash on me. So even if I'm in that airport or needing a taxi suddenly or anything like that, I have a way to pay for it beyond just like, oh, I'm at a restaurant and they probably do have a credit card machine, you know? And so, that's one I can think of. Ryan?
Yeah. And I let me build on that. I think also with having cash, I typically don't keep all my cash in one spot.
Mm-hmm.
So, like while I'm traveling, I use like a neck wallet or like a money belt or something. I'll have some money there. I typically won't have my normal wallet while I'm traveling internationally.
Yeah,
so it's
me
like
too.
not in my pocket, you know, where someone could necessarily pick it. But so like my wallet may have a few other things in it, but that's usually in like my carry-on, like deeper in my carry-on. And sometimes I'll even put some money in my like checked bag or something if I have a checked bag, which I don't always fly with one, but sometimes I do. Just so that, again, like if any one place gets lost or, you know, whatever, I don't lose everything all at once. That's one thing. I think another thing for me that helps me feel more safe and secure is something that I think will resonate with you, Andie, is I do a lot of preparation and research ahead of time. So knowing like what the nature of things are, how busy are things, what are the areas where things are more like pickpockety or whatever. And then as terrible as it is, like there's an element of like going with your gut. You know, again, even just with your story, you're like, I just had a bad feeling about this. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I just knew it was not heading in a good direction. You know, like there are times where and sometimes maybe you have a bad feeling and it's actually fine because maybe you have a bad feeling because it's a different culture. And so you're reading things through the lens of your own culture when really it's not a big deal in another culture. So that does happen for sure. But I think that erring on that side of safety and like, hey, you know what? If I'm not comfortable about this, I'm either going to ask or like speak up or take a step back or, you know, whatever's going on. I think that for me, you know, and just knowing as much as I can ahead of time helps me feel safer. I mean, there's no way to be 100% safe.
Yeah, I have a couple of things to build on that too. With Ryan, what you were saying about like having cash on you in different areas or stuff like that. I think that's really smart. And I remember like one time when I was heading to Europe, I was reading some Rick Steves stuff about like money belts and do you do them and where do you put your things, and his advice was like if everything else was stolen from you other than like what's on your person, that you would be able to continue your trip. So like, you know, like even if your purse was stolen, could you continue your trip, you know? And so like that might still suck, but like you still have a credit card, you still have your passport, and then probably some cash too, you know? And so what I discovered that was difficult was like, sure, it might be all well and good to like bury some of that stuff on your person. So like if you have layers and it's like on the inside pocket of a jacket or in a money belt or whatever, but like when you're at a store and all of a sudden you need to buy something, you don't want to be digging in all those layers for those things. And so that's a mistake I made one time where I was like, oh, wait, but all that stuff is in my secret hidden jacket pocket. So, like, I need what I'm going to spend today just in a regular pocket where I can just pull it out and not make it a big deal because I don't want to be, like, flashing a wallet in front of a bunch of people either. And then it's so funny because in general, I'm just someone who, like, assumes things are going to go well and as planned and everything. And I think we're all planners. So in general, when you do a good job planning, most of the time it does work out, you know? And so, but even like if I'm going to another country and I'm going to visit someone, then like I need to make sure to like have all of their like phone numbers on me. So like if I needed to go like find a phone somewhere in that country that I could do that and call them, and like, you know, it just like backup plans are good for things too. And so I would say that that's another one of just kind of like, okay, so if this doesn't go well, then like what's the other plan for like, you know, the plan B, I guess, essentially.
Yeah.
And
so we've talked about this quite a bit on this podcast, but I think that kind of what you were talking about, Cheryl, and then also just for a, you know, safety thing, that's also partly why for me, I do want to have self-service.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
You know,
Mhm.
and because then that is my backup. If like all of a sudden I'm lost and I'm in the middle of somewhere, if I have some form of cell service, I could call someone, I could look something up on Google Maps, I could do things potentially. Now, granted, you get abducted, none of those things are going to matter, right? Like,
Right.
having money in different
Yeah.
places is not going to help you. Having a cell phone with cell service is not going to help you. So there's only so much that you can do. But I think as far as, Andie, your original question, what do you do to feel safe? I think for me, that's part of it, because a cell phone for me is access to information.
Yeah, I
Right?
love that.
So like you said, like we're planning, we've done the research, but you can't anticipate everything. You can't research everything. And so being able to have that thing where I know that I can access that stuff on the fly if I need to. Now, granted, I say that, and this is not meant as a commercial, but I have T-Mobile and they have some of the best international coverage. So I don't ever pay extra for my international coverage.
Amazing.
It's included in, I think,
good.
almost 300 countries now. It's included in my plan. If I had to pay extra, it'd be a totally different story. Like I wouldn't be, just so flippant about, I make sure I have cell coverage.
Yeah.
Because that's a big expense. But
Well, and I think
if it's available,
my version of that, because I think I agree with that. Like in an emergency, could I have something like that? And that's why whenever I travel abroad, even though I don't have the cell service, I still keep my phone on me, partially because it's now the main way I take photos. And when there's Wi-Fi, which is everywhere depending on the country you go to, then you can still kind of have the access in bits. But then also it's if I needed to, I could turn this data on or whatever, you know what I mean? And pay whatever later, but in the moment still then have a phone, And so it is kind of a nice backup, just being okay. So that's a good point.
At that point, it's worth every penny. If you need it, it's worth every penny.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then I think whenever I'm in another country and staying with someone, I don't have my passport on me. I keep it in their home, because I figure that's a good but it depends on where you're staying for what's safer, where it's safer.
Yeah, we had bars on our window, and so I didn't, because I considered that option. But they had a break in 2 weeks before, and it was probably gonna keep it with me, which absolutely. Is the ace number one. They tell you not to if you can leave it, you should leave it, and I was no, I'm not gonna leave it. Yeah.
But if there's a hotel safe, that would make sense. If it's in someone's home where they didn't just have a break in, things like that.
Fair. Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Cool. That was a good question, Andie. Thank you for asking that question.
Thanks, guys.
Really forced us to think about it in an intentional way.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to move to the last segment of this episode called Wish You Were Here. And this is where each of the three of us is going to highlight a single attraction from our various travels. You can think of it kind of like a little postcard, a little snapshot from one thing where you'd say, hey, this thing was super awesome. We wish you were here. So, Andie, would you like to go first?
I would love to.
Yay.
So I was thinking about this, and I was this is a little lame, but it's actually kind of awesome. So the place I'm picking, and we just got home from it, is actually, it's in Portland, and it's called The Grotto. And so The Grotto in high school was somewhere all the cool kids got to go, who did well in choir, and it just sounded magical. And so now I'm a big kid, and so I can go do magical things without needing to be in choir. So what it is, it's a beautiful 2-level botanical gardens in Portland.
Ooh, in Portland?
Yeah. In Portland,
boy.
and it is filled. So it's actually centered around a chapel. It's a monastery, and so so it's a Catholic monastery, and it was especially profound. So we were in Portland because we were doing a day-long adoption training. So we are participating in an open infant adoption. And so we were doing training with our adoption agency and just spent the day just filled with information and needed some time and space to process. So my husband and I went straight from our adoption training to the grotto. And so we went and we started walking around, and there was all this like Mary, the mother of Jesus imagery, and these statues, limestone statues. And so we went into this chapel, a Catholic chapel, which we're not Catholic, but I could see why, like, that imagery is so powerful for people who are Catholic and those who aren't. And so we spent some time talking and praying for our birth family that will choose us and our adoptive kiddo in the sanctuary of Mary. And there's this beautiful, beautiful fresco of Mary getting a crown from God and from Jesus. And it just says, "Behold your mother." And it was stunning. And then the upper gardens, you take this elevator, and there's these little, I guess they're kind of like shrines, but they're architecturally appropriate for different countries. And so there was a Taiwanese shrine, and there was one from Mexico, and it was their patron saints. And there were little shrines to their patron saints. And it was just stunning, so serene. And they really make it open to people of all faiths or no faith. And so I think because that invitation was there, people were really respectful of like the more contemplative nature of that place. And it, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Outside amphitheater, and admission. So you can do the bottom level for free. And then the upper gardens, I think it was like $7.
Nice.
For each of us. Yeah. And they say if you follow the path, it'll take 45 minutes to an hour. And the mountain was out, so if you're a Pacific Northwesterner, you know that it's either, Rainier or Hood. And so, it was clear and beautiful. And it was like, there was a meditation chapel that like floor to ceiling windows looking out on Mount Hood.
Cool.
And it was so beautiful. So, yeah, Portland, love it.
Nice. Oh, that's fantastic.
Cool. Cheryl?
All right. Well, mine is the Arizona Sonora Desert Museum, and I would not say it's actually a museum. So, first of all, misleading
Is it a
title,
desert?
everybody. It is in the desert. It's in Tucson, Arizona.
Okay.
I would just call it a zoo, to be honest with you. So it's pretty great because you get to see a lot of Arizona animals. And so I'm guessing they call it a museum because it also has a lot of like a garden aspect to it where there's just a lot of things about cactuses going on there. But yeah, it's really cool because it definitely is like, I guess the other difference would be it's a true local museum where like the animals you're seeing are all local to the area, which is really fun. And so there's even a little like aquarium type of area, which I don't know, that wouldn't be as local because it's not on the ocean, but
No, not
unless
really.
it's like river animals or something like that. But yeah, and there's a walk-in aviary. There's a hummingbird aviary as well, and that's just like
What?
there were just so many hummingbirds just like chilling too, and they're so cute. And yeah, just really cool trails to walk around as well. And I some cool like Q&A times where they talked about different desert animals and stuff. And it made me want to never live in Arizona because of all the poisonous things that are in people's yards.
Oh my gosh.
But a cool place to visit. So check it out if you're in Tucson.
Nice.
How about you, Ryan?
Well, this is what I referenced earlier, Andie.
My surprise.
This is your surprise, and it fits in so many ways after hearing all of your stories and things.
Oh my gosh.
Because you're going to Florida.
Oh no. Yes,
You're going
I
to
am.
Florida. Now, you said you were going to Tampa, and this is just outside of Orlando, so you would have to make a little bit of a trip. But I'm sure you're familiar with most of the theme parks in Florida.
Yes.
But I'm not sure if you knew that Florida has Gatorland.
No. No. No, it does not.
It does. It
Oh
does.
my gosh!
It does. Yes.
Oh no!
Gatorland. So it is an alligator themed theme park. I'm looking at their website right now, and their little tagline is that they are the alligator capital of the world.
My heart is racing right now. Were there actual alligators there, or is it just the attractions?
Yes. Oh, no. There's lots of alligators there.
I'm taking my pulse. Are you serious? Like, just in cages, or like just walking around?
Well, a little bit of both. So they have, and yeah. Now, I have to say, I was there in 2004, and since I was there, they had a major fire. So they have had to...
Yeah. Fair.
They have had
I did not have anything to do with
a lot
that.
of reconstruction. So I don't know how many of the things from when I was there are still the case there now. But at the time I was there, you entered Gatorland by walking through a big, giant gator mouth.
No.
I mean, it was like bluish, so it looked like it was cartoon.
Does that help? I don't feel like that helps.
I mean, I don't know what to tell you with that. And so then you walk through, and they have like these boardwalks with like little pools where some of the smaller alligators would be. But you were like up high enough. Yeah, the small one. No, I'm serious. The small ones, because the big giant ones that they've like pulled out of people's yards.
No,
those ones are behind like glass. So like not just a fence, but there's like actual like glass.
Okay.
And then
you above? Like you could fall in? I don't like that you have to think about that.
I mean, you could fall in if you were like,
oh my gosh,
trying to. Like you could jump in, I guess. But it's not like an accidentally, oops, now I'm in a gator pit. Like it's not that sort of a thing.
Okay.
But you can buy, they sell hot dogs that you can then like rip into pieces and throw and feed the gators. And they will like, fight out over them with each other. There was a guy who did gator wrestling. So you didn't get to wrestle the gators, but you could watch him like do the gator wrestling show.
Were they trained gators?
I don't know that you can train a gator.
Can you train a gator?
I don't know that you can. I'm not so sure that you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was definitely an experience. And looking at their website now, it looks like they've upgraded because it looks like they have the Screamin' Gator zip line.
No.
Yeah.
No. Do you zip line over alligators?
I think so. And then they also have the they have the Gator Gauntlet zip line as well. I'm not really sure what the difference is between those because again, those didn't exist when I was there before.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, I think in your next trip when you go to Tampa, you need to make a detour and you need to go visit Gatorland.
Face your fears.
Yeah, I feel like immersion therapy when it comes to alligators is probably not a great way of going.
Probably not. I mean, probably one of so I went with my my dad and my siblings when we went, and probably one of our favorite memories from Gatorland was a moment where we saw an individual that we dubbed Mr. Gatorland.
Oh my gosh.
He was a patron. He didn't work there as far as we knew. But picture when you hear Gatorland. Think as stereotypical as you possibly can, the type of person you would expect to see there.
Okay.
And that's pretty much who we saw.
We're not trying to break any molds here. We're trying to stick with
No. And it is entirely possible that I have a photograph. So this was 2004. So this is before we have cell phone cameras that are decent or whatever. So we've got like little digital handheld, point and shoot cameras. Definitely had my sister stand in between me and him so we could get a picture of him in the background.
Yes. That's genius.
Yep. Definitely did that.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Wow.
There you go. Wish you were here.
Yeah, I'm going to pass on that. But thanks for the invite.
Oh my goodness. Oh, wow. Oh boy. Well, Andie, thanks so much for being on our podcast. It was so fun
Oh my
to have
goodness.
you.
Yes.
Do you have anything that you would like to plug? You don't have to, but if you would like.
Didn't she plug her marriage earlier?
Ooh.
I plugged my marriage. I did. It's probably not a great. It's sounding worse and worse each time we say it. I'll be honest. No, I'm good. I do plug the fire at Gatorland. I plug that, but other than that, I think I'm good.
Oh gosh.
Wow. So if they trace it back to arson, we know
Great.
who it was.
Yep.
Then.
You know what? I will do the time, even if it was not mine to do. For my brethren who set fire to Gatorland, I will stand with you.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Oh boy. Well, Daryl, I'll let you decide if you want to keep that stuff in or not.
Yep.
He better.
All right, so that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you, Andie, for being with us. If you have any interest in seeing maybe some pictures from Uganda and Andie's wonderful trip, hopefully she'll be sharing some with us and we can post them on our social media. And you can follow us at Timwy Podcast. That's TMWY Podcast on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. We'd love to have you follow us and maybe tag us in some of your pictures, ask us questions, whatever you want, so that you can never miss an awesome moment from our guests and their cool travels.
Yeah, you can also email us at timwepodcast@gmail.com and send us your travel stories or questions or maybe some tips on how you stay safe when you travel, and also guest suggestions. Do you have anyone who would be cool to be on?
Yeah, you could also give us a call and leave us a voicemail or send us a text message with any of that information. And if you leave us a voicemail, we might even feature you on the podcast at some point in the future. So that number would be 406-763-8699. Or another way of thinking about it that might be a little bit easier to remember would be 406-POD-TIMWY. Also, please remember to rate and review us. That's how more people get our podcasts pushed up on their suggested list, so they're more likely to hear our podcast and cool things from our guests and all of their awesome stories. So we'd love for you to rate and review. And then also if you could subscribe to make sure you don't miss any of our new podcasts as they come out with our cool travel stories.
As always, thanks to Beth Reed Miller for our awesome artwork. You can check more of her artwork out at Beth Is Something. And thanks to Erica Corbin for her song Round the Globe. You can buy her music wherever music is sold.
Okay. Thank you again, Andie, for being on our podcast. We appreciate your amazing stories about Uganda.
Yay!
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
So until next time, remember to take me with you.
Take me with you.
Take me with you.
Can we get a sailboat chasing down the sunset as we float round and round the globe? Salty air and balmy nights, guided only by the lights above, and a little love. Oh, the world is out there waiting to